Welcome back. Sports Blitz here on CDTV. Mike Neville along with Tucker Warner. Well, during this past high school lacrosse season, at least on the girls' side of things, you heard us talk many times about the sisters, Savannah and Madison Callan, and both were named to the 5A girls lacrosse all-state second team. Now, Tucker, I don't know how they got second team because listen to this. These girls put up some gaudy numbers this past season. Savannah recorded 92 goals, 11 assists, and her sister Madison, not too shabby, 86 goals and 15 assists. Now, I want to see the first team list and find out how come these girls were not on the first team. That's my only question about this.
I don't really have a great answer. The only justification I could think of possibly was that maybe since lacrosse is a fairly new sport in this area
Right,
compared
especially
to
at the
some
girls'
others,
level, yeah.
that there might not be the same level of competition just yet, and that's maybe what the voters are
Right.
thinking. But at the same time, those numbers, that's a combined, what, 180 goals between the two of them, give or take?
Sure.
Yeah, well, that's quick math.
You don't want to
hold
look
me
at my
to that.
checkbook, I'll tell you that. But you're right.
You at home can pull out the calculators.
That's
We
right.
don't have any here, but either way, that's a lot
I ran
of
out
goals.
of toes, I'm sorry.
It's a lot of goals, and between the two of them, that's a lot of scoring. That's an absolute carrying of this team. And
Right.
if there are other athletes in better ranks that are competing with them in the stats level, I could definitely see
Right.
why you would take them above the Callans. But when you're competing that strongly and dominating the game that much, you have to give that recognition. You just have to.
And the other thing that's amazing about these statistics, keep in mind, these were the two main players for the Massaponax team. So obviously they generated a lot of defensive interest, and they still were able to put up 92 and 86 goals respectively. It's just amazing, great numbers. So congratulations to both Madison and Savannah Callan for the Massaponax. And for you coaches out there coaching girls lacrosse, keep in mind, they're going to be back for 2 more years. Yeah, you can't get rid of them yet. They're only sophomores. They're going to be rising juniors in the fall. All right, we mentioned going in a break about the NBA draft, and a local interest, of course, is Justin Anderson from Westmoreland County. Also played locally for Spotsylvania Middle School, then, of course, went on to Montrose Christian before starring with University of Virginia. Looks like he's going to be a mid to late round first round pick, but still, that's not bad.
That's very good, actually.
Yeah.
If you're drafted in the first round, that means that teams expect you to be a contributor, and especially when you're going in the later end of the first round, those are good teams that want you to be a contributor for them. And the game that Justin Anderson plays is the type of game that anybody could put on a contributor and get value out of. He's a 3-and-D type, and that's becoming increasingly valuable in this day and age in the NBA. And I think that part of the reason the Golden State Warriors beat the Cavaliers in the finals was because the Warriors had all those 3-and-D players, and the Cavs had none. So I think that he's a very valuable piece to somebody. People have mentioned that he'd be a great fit to the Spurs. They draft 25th, and that would be terrific. But I'll tell you this, I think the Spurs would be absolutely overjoyed if he's still on the board at 25. I think Anderson probably goes around 17th or 18th, probably pretty close to the range that Wisconsin's Sam Decker would go to. And I think that Anderson's going to be a pretty good piece once he gets to the NBA with the type of game that he has and the defensive experience that he's gotten under Tony Bennett.
Yeah, I think that his blueprint for success is the way he plays defense. And like you say, that's going to be a valuable asset for whoever drafts him. Looks like the kid from Kentucky, Towns, is going to be the #1 pick. Okafor maybe #2. However, if the Lakers, they're serious about trying to get Cousins from Sacramento, that could change the whole dynamics of this draft.
It really could, and I think that Karl Anthony Towns goes #1 overall no matter what. I think that's the smart choice. I think it's probably a little bit safer because defense will always translate better to the NBA than offense. So I think that Towns is the safe pick at #1. But if the Lakers do get DeMarcus Cousins before the draft, and I think before the draft matters because if the trade comes later, they can always work some things around.
Exactly.
Never bad to have a surplus of players at the front court. But what you're going to see there, I think, is they'll go after a guard. But I'm not sure, with Kobe Bryant still under contract, whether they want a ball-dominant guard to be playing with Kobe Bryant, because after acquiring DeMarcus Cousins, they're going to be in win-now mode.
Right, exactly.
And I think that at that point, they have to look very hard at what their options are at #2 and see exactly what happens. D'Angelo Russell would probably be the next pick up, but he's a ball-dominant guard. Emmanuel Mudiay out of China, ball-dominant point guard. Even Mario Hezonja, ball-dominant shooting guard, although he doesn't have the same type of playing experience. So,
but I kind of have a feeling if they go to the Lakers, Kobe's going to have something to say about that ball-dominating guard.
Exactly. So that's the scenario that they're in. It's kind of a conundrum, and really it's because they didn't plan ahead far enough in advance to be able to work something out for the Lakers at this point in their future.
Right, exactly. But it's going to be interesting. Let's say Towns, we both agree is going to be number one for sure. But then after that, it all depends on what happens with Cousins, if in fact the Lakers get him, or what happens from there. But the Washington Wizards, there's been projections about maybe Looney from UCLA. Also, I've seen the kid from Louisville, Harrell, Montrezl Harrell, a possibility. And I heard on the radio today somebody said maybe they ought to look for a backup point guard that can score on a consistent basis. Where do you think they're going to go?
You know, I think they need to go for depth right now, so I think really you could add depth at any position if you're the Wizards.
Right.
Point guard does make sense because I think there are upgrades to Ramon Sessions available, but I don't think that you necessarily need to upgrade Ramon Sessions through the draft. If the point guard, that's the best point guard is the best player available in the draft, I think that's the smart choice. But otherwise, you've got different positions you can upgrade. I think they could upgrade some wing shooting off the bench. I think they could upgrade their front court and post play. And there's going to be power forwards and centers that have a lot of talent available on the board for them. So I'm not sure that the point guard is the way to go, especially because, and I know I'm in the minority on this, I think after the first 2 point guards, and that's Russell and Moody, I think point guards just plummet. And I'm not sure that there's a starting point guard long term in this draft after those 2.
Of course, a lot of it, too, depends on Paul Pierce. All of a sudden, he's now talking about maybe opting out of his last year and maybe becoming a free agent. I think, really, he wants to go back home to Los Angeles and play for Doc Rivers with the Clippers. I'm not sure that we're going to see Pierce back with the Wizards next year. Do you think he'll be back?
I think it's about 50-50 at this point. I think if the Wizards do make a play to, strengthen their team, really bolster up that team yet again, I think that Pierce could stay because I think that he does want to play for a contender again. Which is why the Los Angeles Clippers probably sound so enticing right now. But I think that if they make some smart acquisitions in the offseason, that maybe Paul Pierce will stay in his contract, give it another year in Washington.
Exactly. And Kevin Love opting out of his final year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, he had said when he separated or when he got that shoulder injury that he would be ready for training camp and that he would play for the Cavaliers. I'm not so sure he's going to be back with Cleveland.
Yeah, I still think that he's got about an 80 to 85% chance of re-signing in Cleveland. I think that this is going to be the move all along. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James opted out of his contract too, and he's definitely not going anywhere. But Kevin Love, I think that he might listen to some offers. I think that if someone gives him a 7-year max contract offer, he'll at least listen to that one. But I have a feeling he's still going to stay in Cleveland, so I'm not really too worried about that for the Cavaliers.
Well, he's an LA boy. He may be heading to the Lakers. Who knows? All right, we're going to step aside. Got one more segment for you on this edition of the Sports Blitz. When we come back, the NHL had their awards ceremony. We'll tell you who the big winner was in that. Plus, Major League Baseball. We'll talk about the Washington Nationals. That and more when we conclude this edition of the Sports Blitz. Stay with us.